Terry, we're alive. Oh my gosh, we made it.
Well,
We
we're
tra-
alive, but we're recorded.
we're what?
Oh, we're alive. I thought you said we were live. No, we
No,
are
I said
alive.
we're
It's been
alive. We made it. Over
yes,
2,500 miles.
2,600 when it was all over.
2,600 miles. And I told, we have our special guest, Ellen Poole from Houston, and I told her that we were going to talk a little bit about this 2,600 mile little trek, this little visit that we made. But oh my gosh, I'm so excited. It was so amazing. We'll get into that in a minute, but let's introduce our guest first. We have Ellen Poole from Houston, Texas. I lived in Houston for a while. I lived in the Woodlands, so I'm gonna probably understand this city pretty good. How are you, Ellen?
I am doing great. How are you, David?
I'm doing fantastic. And can you introduce your guests and who you have alongside you there?
Absolutely can. Okay, so this is Ashley Baracco to this side. She became a client of ours that we met actually in a different Facebook group. And then she became a friend. And then the Tyroch team here, Danny and Kayla, they're the money people. So they helped them get a loan to get them out of California. And they moved into Montgomery County, which is where we're located. I think you're about 10 minutes away, 15 maybe.
Yeah.
So that is who I have with us. Danny and Kayla are with Fairway, and Ashley and her husband Pete have a remodeling company here called Solo Designs.
I got you. Well, I got to tell you, this is episode 30, and Terry and I have taken a break for a couple of weeks, and I saw that Facebook changed their parameters, so we're not able to go live. So we'll dive more into that later, but we're recording this for all of our members out there listening, and Terry and I were very clear on what our mission is and what we're trying to accomplish. And I think that it got defined even better by driving 2,600 miles to 11 different cities. And Terry, don't get nervous, but I am going to share my screen. I got a couple little things I want to show later on. But Terry, why don't you give us a recap of what it was like for you and talk a little bit about the mission of why do we do these podcasts every week and why did we drive 2,600 miles in the last 2 weeks?
Well, I think some people would say because we're insane is why we drove 2,600 miles
right.
in 2 weeks. But really, the number one thing we get from when people are joining the groups is I have to leave California, but I have absolutely no idea where to go. I've lived in California my whole life, and I don't know. I don't want to move to Nashville. I don't want to move to New York City. I want to move someplace where I can live a happy life and give a great life to my family or retire. And as we were going through this was actually your idea, David. You said, why don't we go get to know these places and the realtors we work with in these communities better and record it so that we can show our members why they should consider some of these towns. So we went to really 10 different towns in 11 days, but we also visited some ancillary places. We stopped in Asheville, North Carolina, which was just hopping. Man, there were a lot of people in Asheville. Where else did we stopped somewhere?
City.
Oh, Johnson City. Yeah, Johnson City was another town we visited briefly. But that's really why we did this. And our videographer, an amazing Brandon Licardi, who's an amazing human being, recorded all this, and that's all going to get edited and distributed so that our members, in fact, I'd never heard of Sonoya, Georgia until Andrew Lowe introduced me to it several years ago, but had never been there. But that's as good as any place in the country, as far as I'm concerned, that people should consider moving to. And that's why we did this, so that we could introduce people to this. And David, I appreciate all your help with this too. It was an amazing adventure.
It was super fun. I mean, honestly, we did 14, 15, 16-hour days. And I'm going to give the props out to Terry Gilliam, our founder of Leaving California and Life After California. The guy that said, I hope I get a couple of hundred people that I can chat with about leaving California, and now has almost 300,000. He did every little inch of the drive. That man right there drove, and he was a very good driver. So again, I know I got Ellen waiting on the side, and I apologize, but we're still pretty pumped up about this trip. And
Hey,
Ellen
I'm
said that
happy to hear that.
yeah, Ellen said that I made a somewhat of a promise that we were going to do the Texas tour.
He promised, David.
Yeah, and we definitely do want to go to Texas. Matter of fact, I live there, so I have a lot of friends in Texas. But again, I just, we're not telling people that they should leave or that they shouldn't leave. But the one thing that we found was clear, and we interviewed people that had left California in all of the 11 cities we visited, and every one of them said the same thing. And is it Ashley? No, yeah, Ashley. I have a feeling Ashley's going to say the same thing that they all said. I wish I would have done it sooner. So let's turn it on. We're going to talk a little bit about, let's talk about Houston, and then I want to show the slide. We're going to talk a little bit more about the tour, and then because I want Ellen to see what she has to look forward to when we bring our crew into Texas. So
Terry, aren't you so glad you made that promise?
Let's cut to the chase. Why are so many people choosing Texas from California, and why the Houston metro area? What's going on in that area? Why so many coming there?
So I would say by and large, our clients from both coasts come to the Montgomery County area. However, we do have a lot that just moved to Houston in general. Our job market since the 80s, since the oil bust, right? So I'm a native Houstonian, as I've told you. So I've watched Houston for only 25 years because, you know, that's how old I am. I've watched it for a long time. And we learned a lesson after that and diversified our economy extremely well. So we're not just an oil and gas city. We're not just a banking city. We're not just a tech hub. Like we literally have so many facets to our economy, and we're a port city as well. So our job market, here's kind of a point of reference. So every January, we all watch the State of the Union per se for the housing market and the economy for Houston. And every time, no matter what's going on nationally, our numbers just look so much better. You know, people will talk about slight recessions, harder recessions, whatever it is happening everywhere else. You just don't see it here. I mean, yes, the cost of living has gone up for everybody. Bread costs more no matter where you live. Like those are actual facts. But no matter what everyone else is experiencing, it is a lot gentler to not even noticeable here in our area. So that is one of the things that people are looking for. To be quite honest, they're looking for a more conservative way of life, as you know, which is why a lot of people are leaving California, because they just don't feel like their families are able to live like they have for generations, right? So that's one of the reasons why Montgomery County is a high pick on the list for our clients that come here, because we are the reddest county in Texas, and not just how we vote, but how we're governed. And we have a different way of life. It's a lot, I mean, when I say slower, there's still so many things to do, but you have a lot of the little town atmospheres. Right. Like where I live in Magnolia, which is right next to the Woodlands. Ashley in Montgomery, we've got Conroe, we've got Willis, so many different parts of Montgomery County. We've got some topography that you don't have in other areas of Houston. We've got, my husband is from Dallas, and he always used to say that the chain restaurants go to Dallas to see if they can make it. The individual restaurateurs come here to Houston. So our food is known across the nation as superb, wouldn't you say?
I would agree.
Yeah. Yeah. So what did I not hit?
No, I was going to ask Terry, because, you know, every week we do the show and we go to different parts of the country. But I think I got you beat on this one, Terry. What's your Houston experience?
Well, I've been there many times.
But I lived there for 10 years, so wait a minute.
Well, I didn't live there, but I've been to Houston many times. Been to Sugarland, been downtown, been on I-10 going through Houston, right? I-10 going through Houston.
What a freeway.
Yeah, what a freeway. It was drove by the stadiums when I was going through there. But so, Ellen, can you just clarify where Montgomery County is compared to Houston proper?
North.
So
okay.
You've
got a little bit on the northwest side of 45. You've got a little bit on the northeast, and then it's just straight up north, right? So if you take 45 leaving Dallas, you can take 45 straight into the ocean if there were no seawall. So we are on the far north side of the Metroplex and about 3.5 hours south of Dallas.
Okay. And if you were to live in Montgomery County and needed to commute downtown to Houston on a typical day, how long would it take you to get there?
40-ish minutes, roughly.
Okay.
And that depends on what part of Montgomery County. Yeah. You know, the Woodlands is going to be a lot closer in, where David lived for a while. If you live out, say, in Willis, that's going to take you an additional maybe 15 minutes on the freeway. And it also depends on how deep east or west that you live off of 45 as well. So 45 is the freeway that goes straight into downtown.
Great.
Well, you know, a lot of our listeners and all of our members, when they're thinking about moving to a different place, they want to get a new home. And we have Danny and Kayla here. Maybe you guys could speak a little bit of what it's like to buy a new home, a resale or a new build or anything like that, and talk about what that looks like for our listeners.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that we're seeing the most right now is, people just adjusting to this new rate environment. We all got accustomed to seeing 3% rates. And when you're thinking about moving now, you're questioning, did I miss the boat? And I can tell you confidently that you didn't miss the boat. And there's some really awesome opportunities that I present almost every day about things called a temporary rate buy down. So basically, that's simply something that gives you, the buyer, a 2% lower rate that first year and a 1% lower rate that second year. And if the opportunity presents itself, the seller can pay for that, or you can elect to pay for that as a buyer. And so that's giving people a little bit of that breathing room. Maybe that's 5% compared to 7% for the first year, and then 6%, and then you go to 7% if you don't refinance, for example. So those are some of the things that I talk to people about as just tools to use and think about. If you have that, hey, I missed the boat, is now the right time. Home prices in the Houston area are not going down. We're already seeing, multiple offer situations. And so one of the fun things that we have here at Fairway Mortgage as well is we have a cash guarantee. So this is something I haven't even really explained to Ellen what all is in. Hey, we're just pulling out all the tools today. Super cool opportunity for someone moving. If they've been through our upfront underwriting process, which just takes a matter of a couple days, Fairway will actually put out a cash guarantee for that house, meaning if for some reason that buyer did not get approved, Fairway would buy that house. So as the listing side, they can be confident that they're going to close that deal. Now that's going to be based on either the lower of the sales price or the appraisal value. So if you're paying $100,000 over ask, which isn't happening like it used to, we would still buy that house, but only for the purchase price or the appraisal value. So some really cool tools just to kind of have in our back pocket for those people relocating and making sure that you get the house that you want.
Danny, that's a great offer. And then Ellen, is there a lot of seller incentives going on like there is in my market here in Las Vegas? Are you getting a lot of seller incentives where they're doing the 2-to-1 buy downs?
I'd say we're about split. So it really depends on how long that home has been on the market. I have not seen a whole lot of opportunities where we've got the 2-1 buy down amount available, but I'm negotiating one right now where we potentially will. If the home is a good home, sparkling, cleaned up well, presented well, it's not going to sit long enough necessarily to get that. But the way that I ask people to tell me when they're moving, and after this, if it's okay, I'd like for Ashley to talk a little bit about what the experience is like to move with kind of like our project team, right? Because that's how we like to look at it. But if I ask my clients, do you want a home or do you want a deal? And that's a legitimate question because I'm going to approach it differently. If they want a deal, then I need to go look for things sitting a little bit longer. Or if Danny says, look, I've got to have some dollars for them, then I know I'm not looking at one day on market properties. Right. I'm looking at something that's lingered just a little bit, but hopefully is still a really good home for them. Or if they say, I am more focused on the home and everything else doesn't matter. Like I have some clients from California, we're about to get them under contract on a home that's not even going to be on the market because they are legitimately down the street from their son and daughter-in-law. So, that to them, the home is more important than the deal. So we approach it differently no matter what.
Understood. And Kayla, why should someone come to Houston?
I'm sorry?
Why should somebody move to Houston metro area?
I mean, I'm from Houston area. I love Houston. I think Ellen spoke to this. It's the job market here. I'm from 10 minutes away from where we're at now, went to college and came right back. And that's actually something that me and Ellen have discussed before is, a lot of people, when they go to college, where do they go afterwards? Are they coming back to their hometown or are they going somewhere different? And we see it all the time now that people are coming back to Houston. People are going back to Montgomery County. What used to be these tiny little towns are now just growing like crazy. So yeah.
So my daughter is graduating. So tomorrow she's doing a senior walk. I'm super proud of my daughters. Do you know where Metzler is?
Nope.
Metzler Elementary, that's where she went. I think it's out, I can't even remember, but she went there, and she totally wants to go back to Texas. She doesn't want to live in Las Vegas, but all of her best friends are there. She loves it. In your education, you guys definitely have us way beat on education in the Houston area.
Remember that little university you told me she wants to go to?
Just the little one.
Right here. These two went to A&M.
Yeah, and it's really cheap to go there, right? I mean, it's probably what, a couple $100 here and there, right?
It is if you live here.
You gotta get that in-state tuition, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Well, Terry, what else do you want to ask about Houston before we get over to Ashley and find out about the journey? But what else do you got on your mind, Terry?
Well, yeah, I definitely want to hear from Ashley. But Ellen, if you can talk about your relocation services and how you serve your clients and why they would want to work with you.
So I believe we've got a total package, and Ashley will probably address this when she gets to her time. But so our background, my husband and I have a very extensive real estate background. I sold new homes for almost 19 years. He sold them for almost 15. He was in property management. He's been a custom builder almost 30 years. And I was a VP of corporate sales for a title company. So the way we look at real estate and housing is different than a lot of agents who don't have that depth. And so our vetting process for the home is extremely specific and very thorough. The eyes that my husband puts on the homes is invaluable. And then the fact that we have a lender team, that we don't just do 1 or 2 loans with these guys a month. I mean, we are truly a team. It's a team effort. And when you're moving, you don't want to have a disjointed process. You don't want to have to deal with this person over here doesn't know who this person is in the transaction. Our title company, we close about 90%, whether it's on the buy or sell side. I'm usually able to get us over there to Callie and her team, and they send out mobile notaries to our clients so they can close in California. They don't even have to be there. Then they can roll up to their home. We just really make the process seamless, but we don't skip steps in that. We're very, very thorough.
Which, to add to her point about the remote notaries, we actually can do a fully online notary now. So that's something, just not even 2 years ago was an option. So, the deed can be signed via remote online notary. It's this whole, security system that you get to sign into. And so it's making buying a house even easier, where you don't have to physically fly in or have a physical person come visit you. So.
Well, it's interesting that me being the National Relocation Director, I've really got to learn from Terry. Terry's been my mentor, and I learn from him every day about some of the political problems. I learn a lot about California. I try to keep up as much as I can because I want to be able to inform people that, this whole program is about educating people. But I give Terry 100% of the credit for finding all of the realtors. And I have to tell you, that when I went and I met these realtors in person, he has done an amazing job of finding people that are not salesy. People don't get off the plane and, you're not gonna have to worry about Ellen coming and picking you up at the airport and going, okay, well, where do you wanna buy? What do you wanna buy? What do you wanna buy? There's none of that. It's all genuine. It's all, let me try to make your life better. And I know that we're gonna get to Ashley in a sec. Ashley's waiting. And I can't wait to hear your story, but Terry, you've done such an amazing job of finding the right people that will really help. And we say this on every podcast, and I just can't emphasize this fact. When you use your brother's cousin's mother's sister's friend that has sold one house in the last 5 years, you're not going to get an Ellen, right, Terry?
That's right. Yeah, and I've for the 350-ish realtors we have across the country, I probably have several thousand that have approached to be realtors in the group, and I've interviewed every single one of them of our 350. If I've got an Ellen in the Houston market, I'm not looking for another one. So once I have a good person there, I don't really go searching for more. But yeah, every one of them is vetted. Every one of them I know personally, and as you said, David, it was great for me to meet all of them for the first time too. I've met Shay in Greenville before, but Haley in Knoxville, and Ethan and Franklin. So yeah, I had met some of them face to face before, but these are great people. Most or all of them are from California at some point, And so they know what people are going through. And of course, Ellen certainly knows what Ashley went through to get to the Houston market. And so it's just so important that we're not here to sell people a house. We're here to make sure this is a right fit and that people are happy with where they end up and that they live a much better life. I mean, let's face it, it's stressful enough living in California, let alone trying to move across the country. So our goal is to have our realtor partners do the best they can to help people find a home that best fits them.
Well, Ellen, let's dive in. I mean, this is the highlight of the show. This is what we've all been waiting for. And this is my favorite part, because when I get to interview people and I get to hear stories, and that's what Terry has really created. By creating these two groups, we create stories. And stories is how people learn. I mean, kids in kindergarten learn through story time. So by telling these stories, we're able to help people to save money, to have less stress. So let's dive in and I want to hear about Ashley's story. So please take it away, Ellen.
Well, Ashley, actually.
Well, so we found Ellen in another group, probably just right when you started the group initially. It was
You were my
2020,
OGs. Yeah.
2020 when all hell broke loose, and we had time on our hands to reconsider our life. And we are very premature in the deciding to move phase. I was all for it. My husband, not so much. His comment was, why would I leave, everything that we've built here? We have our family, we have our lives, we have our home, everything. We're 2 hours from the mountains, 2 hours from the desert, or right on the beach. We have all the different seasons in one at any moment in time that we want. Why would we leave? And that's kind of all we really had at that point in California was the weather, because it started to I know California had started to go down a little bit before that, but that's when people noticed it. And so my husband was not really interested. We met Ellen online, kind of chatted a little bit. I decided to drag him out. I think it was December. I chose wisely December, beautiful, decorated, the fields, you had all of that. Brought him out, and pretty much it was a short trip, 2 days?
Yeah.
Met with Ellen. She was totally understandable with the whole, we're not quite ready yet, but eventually we'll get there situation. Very gracious. We went and saw some different areas.
I want him over with the barbecue.
I think it was that and just the hospitality, right? The people in general here are just nice and so shocking. They're just genuinely,
your story.
Yeah, they're genuinely kind, and they do things for people because they want to, not for any other reason. We could have very well decided at that moment that we weren't moving, and Ellen, I don't think, would have done anything differently than what she did that entire weekend. So she took the time out of her weekend to show us areas, and it took a solid year, I think, for us to really make the choice. We had to weigh all of the positives and negatives and what are we doing with our lives. We have 2 small children, and we wanted to do what was best for them. And we got introduced to Danny and Kayla probably halfway through that process, maybe August, when we were a little more sure on the moving situation. And we took it as, we don't have to move, we're choosing to move, so whatever happens, happens. And literally everything fell into place perfectly. We were buying at a time where people were offering $100,000 over asking price on a home that did not warrant it. It was just, interest rates were low, houses were selling like nobody's business, right? We didn't want to do that. We wanted to buy a house for what it's worth and start a life. So it was interesting, but it was never challenging. And Ellen happened to come across, I think it was a friend of hers who was also a realtor, who had not listed a house yet. It met, I think, all but one of our boxes. Everything about it was perfect. It needed some updating, but we didn't really have that issue. That's what we do for a living. So we didn't want to offer a ton over. So I think we offered asking, and it was like, yep, great, let's move forward. It was everything, I'm telling you, everything worked out perfectly the first time. Danny was on the loan, and I think we closed in 20 days or less than?
Yeah, it was pretty quick,
And it was a second home, right?
Yeah, we had to do second home because we kept our home in California, and we decided to not find jobs out here because we were going to start our own business out here.
So you presented him with the easiest of all.
Oh, yes. really wacky tax returns, and we don't have a job when we get there, so let's buy a house. And
Right.
he still closed early, and we didn't have to have it appraised.
Yeah.
You got an appraisal waiver.
We got an appraisal waiver on it. I mean, everything just happened. So I'm like, if this is what's meant to be, right? There was no obstacle, not a single obstacle that came our way that prevented us. We need a little bit more time. The sellers wanted to rent back for a couple months. Nothing.
The only
was
issue
really-
with y'all's loan was that y'all are Dodgers fans. Okay.
Well, I'm right
So,
now.
I don't know.
That- I can see that as a challenge.
In the Dodgers.
Right.
Go Stros. Go Stros. Hey, Ashley, let's back up for just a second. Where exactly were you in California?
Los Angeles, right at the port of Los Angeles. There's a town called San Pedro. It's a port town.
So traffic's not too good there. Not so much.
No, it's not good at all. No. So it's funny because I say when you're out here, it takes a long time to get places, but it's because it's a distance, right? Like coming into Houston, there's a far distance there. We were much closer to things, and it probably took the same amount of time because you're not moving anywhere.
Right. And how old are your kids?
Right now, they're 10 and 7.
So I'll never forget this. Terry, remember the time when we had a mom on that had left California, and she was in tears on our podcast. And she said, and she's talking to our realtor in our podcast, and she said, I just can't do this to my kids anymore. I can't raise my kids. And that just breaks my heart, because as I said, my daughter's graduating this week from high school, and some of the stuff in California in the schools I hear is not so great, is it, Terry?
No, the Californians indoctrinating kids. They're not teaching them, they're indoctrinating them. So I spent my kids, both of them went through high school in Northern California, and every day I was like, okay, what did they teach you today? Okay, this is the real world. This isn't Disneyland where what they're teaching you. So to me, it's that's the difference between what you get in California versus many other places. And Ashley, I assume that was the same. Your kids were getting started in school, and you did.
Yeah, it was tough. My daughter loved school from kindergarten up, and it came to a point where she would come home crying from school because she just hated it so much. COVID was a big issue. Obviously, the kids needed to be around their peers and play and do the things, and they were out of that for a long time, a lot longer than other places. I think it was way more than it needed to be. But even when they started to go back, they could see their friends, but they couldn't go near their friends. They couldn't touch their friends. They couldn't talk to their friends. They couldn't do anything. So it was almost like putting a cookie in front of a child, but telling them don't touch it and don't eat it.
That's
It
terrible.
was really challenging.
horrible.
And then it came to a point where there was discussions about the restrooms and who can go in what restroom, and my daughter would ask me those questions, and I said, you know what, we're not doing it anymore. It's only going to get worse. And I have friends that are still there, and they're telling me how it's getting worse. They're looking into charter schools or private schools or anything other than the normal public schools because it's getting so bad.
I remember going to San Diego because during COVID, I was like, we got to get out of here. So I got in the car and I drove to San Diego. It was so funny because my daughter and I went to San Diego and we went to the beach because we thought we could go to the beach. I mean, why not? And I'll never forget this police officer was driving down the beach, and he would get on his megaphone and say, nobody's allowed to stand still on the beach. You have to keep moving. And
Yeah,
so everybody, so he'd get on his megaphone, everybody would take 3 steps and they'd sit back down on the beach. It was the most ridiculous thing.
The rules out there were obnoxious. It was bad, and it lasted a very long time.
Let's not forget they arrested a surfer out in the ocean by himself.
Because you might get the shark sick.
Yeah,
We did,
Yeah,
we
it's
did not
bad.
have
that's
that.
what it
Yeah.
is.
No, we
Don't
Don't
don't.
get that shark sick.
Ashley, we try not to get too political on this. And again, we are not, and Terry says this on every show and to every realtor and every interview. He always says that, look, if you want to stay and you're happy, please stay.
Put a mask on and stay.
Yeah, put a mask on and stay. But the thing is, a lot of people get defensive. And Ellen, I don't know, I guess you just joined up with us recently, but I'm sure you've seen some of the negative posts where people are like, yeah, just get out of here then. If you want to go, just go. And they're nasty about it. I don't think it has to be a nasty thing. I think what it needs to be is for people to just hope for the betterment of human beings and not wish ill will on them. But if people think that there's a better life, and that's what we did, huh, Terry? We left California and welcome to America, and we did that in 11 different cities, and now we're doing it in Houston. Again, we're not telling, but I was curious, Ashley, is there anything else? Because I don't usually bring this up, but was there anything else politically or in your community, traffic or other things that really pushed you over the edge?
Yes, we were just talking about it today. So we own some rental properties still out in California, and they're making it very difficult for not only homeowners but mom and pop rental owners to survive. When COVID hit, renters were not required to pay their rent, but homeowners still had to pay their mortgage. And this lasted well past, I think it just ended December of last year. And now they have, I think, 1 to 2 years to make up their payments, which it's not going to happen. They're just going to bounce and find another place to rent, and you're going to be left with 2 years of unpaid rent. That caused a lot of people to have to foreclose on their rental properties, yet the people were still able to stay there and live there through bank foreclosures. The bills that they're trying to pass on zoning in the state to create opportunities where a single family home can be turned into a triplex or a fourplex, and that's going to ruin a lot of neighborhoods in terms of congestion. There are, like Palos Verdes, you mentioned, there are some very expensive homes in Palos Verdes. That's a very wealthy area. They want to create neighborhoods within Palos Verdes where they're bringing in Section 8 and low income. I don't think there's anything wrong with those categories, right? There's nothing wrong with people needing that help and that assistance. But when somebody's paying $4 million for their home and property, they don't want a Section 8, building next door to them. It's not ideal. And so a lot of people are getting frustrated with those bills. Short-term rentals, they're looking to pass a California state tax of 20% on top of whatever the city state tax is. So Coachella, Stagecoach, that's in La Quinta area, they have an 11% state tax. So it'll be 31% state tax or 31% overall tax on top of the nightly rates, because
that's on the revenue?
That's just on the nightly rate. So 31%, your nightly rate, whatever cleaning fee, whatever that is.
They're gonna tack it on.
Oh, they're gonna tack it all on. And then it's being lobbied by the hotels, obviously, because it's being, they're not getting the business that they want with short-term rentals. So mom and pops are just going to die out.
Ashley, be careful. You might get Terry started. We try not to get him too riled up, but talk about taxes, Terry. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, if it's not it's because people are leaving. So they're getting less income, less tax money. So they have to hike it. I think there was another one they passed or going to pass where if you leave this state, if you take your business out of the state of California, they're going to post tax you for a certain amount of years, like an exit tax.
Yeah, the goal is 10 years.
Jail.
The goal is 10 years.
I mean, they've got weather. Don't get me wrong. The state is beautiful. It's a gorgeous state, but it comes with its challenges. And it's impossible to afford.
Do you want to touch on any of that, Terry, or do you want to leave it alone?
No, we'll just leave it right there.
So that actually reminds me, we had a client that was there in California, which was one of the first, I think, that we worked together
In
on.
the real group.
And this is making more sense now. She closed that business down and she opened a new business, which made it a little bit difficult from a lender perspective, but we made it work. Did a bank statement loan for her. But now it's making more sense. That's probably why she did that. She closed her California business and started a new business in a different state and then came to Texas. So anyway.
Well, let's move back to Houston a little bit. And Ashley, thank you for sharing your story. It really is helpful. And people watch our shows because they're really on the fence. They're not sure if they should do it. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But before we get to that topic, let's talk. So I was in Houston for quite some time. I'd been to Houston quite a few times before that. Somebody that's listening to our show that has never been to Houston, what are some of the top things that you guys would be like, oh my gosh, you have got to go down to Galveston? And what are the things that you guys tell people, you really need to go check this out? What do you got?
Y'all are out and about way more than
Okay, so so when people come visit, especially, depending on, usually I'm like the social coordinator
She's
for
the social
yes.
chair.
the social chair of
She's
our
the social
group.
chair.
So when people come and they're like, well, we're going to be in this part, where should we go eat? Or like, what should we do? And I'm like, okay, are you bringing kids with you? Like, let's look, or is it just adults only? So especially if you, well, even if you don't have kids, I think NASA is super cool.
Mhm.
NASA is really, really neat to go to.
Whether we landed on the moon or not, that's not
Alright.
for debate. We have our own, you know.
That's a
Went
different
there,
story.
huh?
Anyway, so obviously we're big Astros fans. So going to an Astros game, which is downtown.
The park is beautiful.
Yeah, the Minute Maid Park is awesome. You can do tours of it too, that are really take a couple hours, are really cool.
Schlitterbahn in Galveston.
There's a water park in Galveston. Galveston's fun. We always tell everyone, we're like, the beach is not beautiful, but it's a fun little beach town.
Mhm.
It is. Yeah.
What else is there?
The
The zoo's
Bluebell?
amazing.
Going to see the Bluebell ice cream. My kids thought that was just
Oh.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Bluebell
the thing.
Creamery.
We have probably one of the top-rated children's museums
Oh, yeah, the
in the
children,
country.
Oh yeah.
Now, that might sound kind of like, okay, whatever, it's a museum, but it is first class. It is legit. Like, those kids go in there and they do their HEB shopping, and they have all the money. And I mean,
that
they,
grocery store's enough for me. You sold me.
Which one of you guys is the Sam Houston storyteller? Who's the Sam Houston guy?
potentially none of us.
Yeah.
No, but that's what the city was named after, right? Sam Houston.
Oh, my daughter could tell you everything about it. We've only been here 2 years, but she has learned everything about Texas. And she could tell you, she did her bottle project on him, and we had to make one. We had to make a Sam Houston out of a
We'll get
Coke bottle.
Sophia on next time.
Oh, she'll
Yeah.
tell you.
When you're
everything.
driving in, so when you're driving into Houston from the north side,
Yes,
you get the
the-
view of Sam Houston. So that's pretty cool. Terry, anything else about Houston that I may have forgotten?
Well, I will tell you that I've actually been to Sam Houston's burial site.
Oh,
It's in
fun
San
fact.
Antonio. I'm sorry, San Antonio. And he and Davy Crockett are buried in the same container.
What are you
It's in a
not?
Catholic church in San Antonio. Yeah,
Oh my
that's where the
gosh.
Alamo is. Yeah.
So,
David, I have something I would love to go to if we have a second.
Go ahead.
Okay, so at the beginning, you guys talked about how the point of all of this is to educate people on, if you want to leave California, here are some of your choices, right? And you said Ellen's not going to try and shove you into a house when you get off the plane. Very true. I want to see if you remember when you guys were here. What did I tell you? Did I say we need to focus on areas for you, or do we need to focus on a house?
No, it was all about the area. It was all about, where are you the most comfortable? I'm willing to go. I think we went Montgomery, Magnolia, Tomball.
Mhm.
I mean, we drove. We went to the places. She graciously took us to all the places, and it was to figure out, even if it wasn't her favorite place, to figure out what we loved and what made us feel at home and feel comfortable.
Because if someone's not gonna, if they're coming to visit to say, hey, I want to see if Houston, if Montgomery County, I want to see if this is for me, but I might not move for 6 months. I might not move for a year. It is a waste of time. It is a waste of energy to focus on a house.
That's right.
Because if that house is worth its salt, it is certainly not going to be here in 6 months or a year. And if it still is, we ain't buying it. It's just it.
Yeah, and,
So-
and to that point too, I think focusing on the house doesn't make sense because they may never move. And so when they're starting the conversation with usually Kayla and or me or both, you know, sometimes it makes sense for Kayla to talk to them or me or vice versa. Ellen does such a good job of figuring out if this is a realistic thing before saying go get pre-approved with us, and really nurturing that relationship to understand what matters in the area and is this still an option? Maybe they're considering Dallas and Houston, and sometimes you refer them to folks up in Dallas. So she does a really good job with that. And then again, if you can get qualified for a house, okay, that's great and all, but what if you're really not that ready, you know? So
And I appreciate you saying, because as a licensed realtor and as the relocation director, I want to make sure people understand. And I appreciate you saying what you did about now is a good time to buy. And we're not just saying that as a realtor, but if people, because it drives me crazy, and I know it does for you guys too. Well, we just need to wait till the interest rates come down. Ashley was a perfect example of that. What a horrible thing. Ashley, what was it like when the rates came down And how was there multiple offers and people were paying a little over asking price?
It was ridiculous. I mean, not only multiple offers, but we're looking at $100,000 over asking. And I just was like, nope, that's not happening.
Like the one you wanted to buy in our neighborhood. And we had 3 clients that wanted the same exact house, plus all the other people that wanted the same house. You remember that?
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't even remember what it went for over, and it was
over 100, but I remember you saying, this is the situation. And I said, I'll skip.
Yep.
I don't care how gorgeous it is. I'm not, not doing it.
Well, and the thing is too, you might pay 100,000 over and it appraises for 50 grand less back then.
And
So
then you
you're
had
not-
to bring the extra.
Yeah, so now you're on the hook for your down payment plus 150K. Like most people can't do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, folks coming from California, when they're selling a $2 million house,
Mhm.
they had the flexibility, but
That was the
that's
problem.
not quite the situation. I've only seen one house all of this year that has gone substantially over, and it's in Memorial, which is the highest price per square foot in all of Houston, and it went 100 grand over.
Yeah. The max I'm seeing right now where I am for multiple offers over ask is like 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
That's where it used to be.
Yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
used to be before crazy. Like
Yeah.
that's where it was.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys really letting us express how much fun we had on the trip. And I only have 3 things left. One of them is I want you guys to think about what you would tell somebody that is considering leaving. And then of course I want you guys to share your name and contact information. And the other thing is I have Terry, you got to let me share the screen. You're muted too, by the way, Terry. Did
Go
he
ahead.
just he just did a prayer?
No, I just go ahead.
Oh, okay. All right.
You know
is
where
this
there
a
you go.
preview to the Texas trip, David?
This is it. So that was Johnson City. And that was our day off. We had already gone 1,500 miles. This is on Sunday, and we were just in Johnson City. It just was really nice. We didn't really have a day off though. We were still working and doing editing and stuff. So that was a really fun day. And then where's
Know
that?
each other really well now, don't you?
He was my roommate. Yes, for
Yes,
11
we were
days.
roommates. But I tell you, when we got to our room at midnight or whatever, we both just fell asleep and then woke up 6 a.m. the next morning and heading out the door. So it was, yeah.
Something right
And
now.
then these were all the cities, and this was the track. This is Terry Gilliam. He drove all this way, 2,600 miles. So, and then this was our crew. As Terry mentioned, Brandon, he was amazing. This is the cinematographer. We got corrected. We were like, oh, we have a videographer. He goes, no, I'm not a videographer. I'm a cinematographer.
Yeah,
And
he's
then
a
John was-
movie ready kind of guy.
Yeah. This was actually, we were kind of fresh, and this was our first day. And then this was John. He did all the pictures and the photo, and he was our assistant. He was amazing. So, and then this was our national sponsor, and I think you're going to be meeting with him today. Is that right, Ellen?
Wednesday.
Wednesday. He's amazing. And the last one, this was something I put together. I showed this to Terry earlier. This was some of the pictures all over. Just amazing. So thank you for
Thanks for
allowing me to
doing it.
share that. And let's, so the last question, and Ellen, I actually have 2 questions. I always like to ask you guys what you would tell somebody that was thinking about leaving. But the other one is, Ellen, if you have a story, and maybe she's sitting right next to you, but do you have a story about one of your clients that left California and came to Texas that really stands out, and you're like, oh my gosh, this one family? Is there anything that comes to mind? Or you?
I think it is actually, Ashley, and it's not because she's sitting here, but they came here without jobs. Like she mentioned, they came here and they have made their way into a community, not just as people that live there and maybe work there for a company. Like they've had to come here and make a whole new life personally and professionally. And they've done such a good job of it that they were voted what? Tell them.
Living Magazine's best 2023. We'll see about 2024. That vote's coming up, but yeah, we had been here a year. And we
1
got
year,
the
and that's a big deal. It's in the Woodlands. It
That's
is
awesome.
not an easy feat to
And
get
then-
an award in that at all. And they were brand new. So I would say that I have a lot that pull at my heartstrings, and a lot of it are single mamas getting their
Yeah.
kids out of California for sure.
They're both super talented though. Her and her
Yes.
husband, he's like master carpenter. I've been in his garage, in his back house garage.
Yeah.
We've been to their house. We've had pizza out by their pool. Like we've become really close with them.
That was a fun day.
It was good.
And they've welcomed us into their house and you know, but they're brave. They've
Yeah.
done it. They've done it for sure.
And you know, the last question I have for you guys is, you know, if somebody's sitting there and one of our members, one of our 300,000 members is looking and they're really thinking about leaving and they're not sure and they're afraid, it's a big step. And as Ashley shared, it's a big decision. And she said her husband wasn't on board in the beginning. If you were going to tell somebody that was watching our podcast and watching our show, what advice would you give them about doing it or not doing it?
I would say visit.
Visit. That's what Ashley
Yeah.
says. I would say if it's in your heart to come and to get out of California, there's a way. There's a way. And whether you can buy a home right away, whether we have to start out renting a home, I don't care what it is. If it's in your heart to find that different lifestyle for your family, we have come alongside a few hundred relocation buyers in the last few years and helped them make it. So if it's in your heart to do, and if you feel like you want to take that leap, we do it really, really well. So
Good. Perfect. Anything else?
I mean, I was just gonna kind of piggyback off of that in that sometimes we say, here's your pre-approval letter and you can get approved and here's what this looks like. And we just had another client that, you know, after inspections on the property, Ellen and Todd got together with the buyers and decided that this wasn't the right house. And based on the timeline, they're now going to rent instead. So for, you know, call it 6 months, and they're going to be even more well prepared in 6 months because their long-term goal is not to be in the southeast part of Houston where they were looking. It's really to be up in the northern part. And so
God's country.
there you go. So they made that decision, but they had to get here, you know, kind of see the house and really get their hands on it to make that decision, even though they were literally under contract to buy a house. And then guess what, guys? It's okay. It's okay that you're not going to buy a house because I know, and she knows that they're going to buy a house eventually, but it's not just about getting someone into a house.
We're
like
all
we
here
think.
for the long game.
Yeah,
And if you need a house remodeled, I got you right here.
And we can
Well,
handle the
looks like
renovation loan for you too.
Yeah.
So there you go.
It looks like we're going to have to do the Leaving California, Texas tour eventually. And I'm excited to do that.
We did it.
So and to end our show, because I want to be respectful of time, Terry, do you have anything else that you want to add before we get their contact information?
Just that Ellen and Danny and Kayla are the reason that we vet our realtors so strictly, because it's obvious that they're a winning team and can really help people find a better life. And that's really what it's all about, a better place. Listen to Ashley and her story, how much happier she and her family are living in Montgomery County. And I just want to thank Ellen and the team for helping our members just get out of California and live a happier life.
You know what I love once I was part of the groups, Terry, is to actually look in both of them and see how many of our clients are in there.
Oh, that's great. That's
Yeah.
great.
Thanks for
All right,
having
so-
us. We really appreciate it.
Yes,
Sure.
thank
So-
you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ellen. So to wrap it up, if you guys would please share your contact information, your phone and your email, what's the best way for clients to get a hold of you guys? We would love for you to share that, please.
Okay, so just read it out. So you can call me, text me, whatever, at 281-636-5633. Email at ellen@poolrealtygroup.com. No E at the end of pool.
Perfect. Danny Tyroch and Kayla Tyroch. My number is 817-269-9762. And my email is danny.tyroch@fairwaymc, like mortgage company.com.
And the best thing is, if you call one of us, we'll
We
hook you
can,
up
yeah.
with the rest. Like,
Make it easy.
You only remember one thing.
yeah, one call and you can get
Put all these
everybody.
numbers in the post as well.
Yeah.
So that Southern Texas hospitality is still alive and well. Look at this right there in front of us. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We can't
Thanks.
wait to do the Texas tour. We'll see you guys later. See you
Thank
soon.
you all.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.